The boat behind me is a new Regina 440 from Italian manufacturer Fabbrica Italiana Motoscafi. Now that means Italian motorboat factory, but FIM of course for short. And it's quite interesting because it's really quite a departure from what's gone before. If we look ahead of us here, we have the flagship of that Regina range of stylish walk-around day cruisers, and that's called the Regina 470. Radically different in a lot of ways. If we look back at the 440, you see there's far greater cleanliness of design, particularly in those hull sides. There's a decent breadth of hull forward there, incidentally, so we ought to get a decent bit of accommodation down below and a decent bit of beam up in that bow. And those hull windows, they look less like the 470 and more like a combination of something from the design studios of Absolute and Sunseeker. It's a very cool looking boat. Even as we make our way on board this boat, the ease of movement from that classical Regina walk-around deck layout is very evident. It's made all the better here by these two fold-down bulwarks, optional, one on either side. Let's take a little walk forward to those and take a closer look, because even though there's natural teak all over this boat, here on these drop-down bulwarks it gives way to this lovely, thick, textured sea deck, really grippy. That's obviously very practical at the edge there, but it's also quite impressive from a stylistic standpoint. If we make our way down onto the aft swim platform and look forward towards the raised island sunbed there, you'll see there's a neat little recessed transom shower. That's very nicely done indeed. And actually already it seems to me that some of the details on board this boat are very satisfying. Down in the engine bay we've got a pair of D6 440s around about 38 knots according to the guys here, even with 14 people on board. And as you'd expect of a walk-around day cruiser, we have a central dinette. Now here we have the tables that could be lowered into the space, and then you fold over these backrests into that spot so you don't need separate infills, and that enables your sunbed to go all the way from the aft swim platform right the way forward to the space here to operate the transverse galley. What I like here though, and don't like at the same time, is the way that they've braced these struts for the backrests. We've got little teak, hinged teak sections with stainless steel lining to stop it moving forward. It does mean that you can hinge it right over into the space as an infill, but you can't actually hinge it here to face aft. And similarly, if we move forward, it means that you can drop this one into that space, but you can't set it to face forward. So it's not as versatile as it might be. But as I say, this is a very singular and distinctive boat, and the same goes for the storage solution underneath here. Now we've got a netting partition here with little poppers. So it's great for your shoes or for lines that you need to hand, or tenders if you can't be bothered to put them away somewhere sensible. And there's also space on the starboard side there for a life raft, so that's quite useful. And this is unusual too. What we have here is the diesel filler, of course one on either side, recessed into the bulwark with a little stainless steel bracket there to stop any spillages onto your natural teak. But of course, if you do get a spillage, it's going to contain itself in there and you're going to need to mop that out manually, so it's not absolutely perfect. And it's distinctly imperfect that the waste outlet is a similar design. The wet bar itself also feels quite singular. As you can see, we've got doors built entirely from solid teak. They've apparently been given about 16 layers of a treatment to make them very resistant to sun and salt and water, and give them this kind of lustrous deep glow. We've got the fridge in there. We've got space behind these for storage or for ice makers if you prefer. And on top we've got a sink, we've got an electric griddle, and we've got a little bit of worktop. Now you can of course spec this with gas if you prefer. As we move up one step, 2 steps, 3 steps to the bow space, well, I mentioned how the hull looks quite
fulsome in its forward quarters. There's a good bit of beam forward here, and I reckon you're still enjoying at least 90% of that beam, even forward of the screen to about here. So the space is pretty generous up here. We've got an island sunbed just ahead of the screen with a little backrest built into that. We've also got cup holders and grab rails, plus a little lifting cushion section, so you can get some light and baggage down below if you want. We've got a table built into the leading moulding there, a little circular table. And facing aft, up in the forepeak, we've got a space for 3 people to sit down. So this is a lunch space for 6 people. The table doesn't really service you very well in that regard. But in terms of the footprint, it's pretty generous. And you still retain little steps to get up onto the forepeak. There's no step through forepeak there, but it does give you good access to that anchor locker. And the anchor itself is mounted permanently on the stem down there out of sight. Up above us, we've also got a sunshade here with little carbon fibre struts, and they fit quite neatly in dedicated brackets beneath the engine lid aft.
Now the helm, again, I don't want to harp on about how this boat feels distinctive, it feels singular, but my goodness, it really does. And the helm is another very able illustration of that. So what we have here is a 3-man bench facing forward. Now the middle of those is designed for the skipper so that he has access to the wheel and throttles. But of course, if somebody is sitting on the starboard side of you, it means they're trapped in their seat. And also, because we have a one-piece bolster, what if you and your partner disagree? I like to drive standing up and my missus likes to drive sitting down. So if I put that up, she's not much going to appreciate it. So it'd be nice to see that split back into 3 individual units so each person up here could take their choice. The wheel though is a distinctly beautiful thing. And we also have space up here. I think what we have here are a pair of 12-inch plotters, but there's easily space there for 16-inch plotters if you want them. And that one-piece screen looks absolutely fantastic. There's a subtle curve to it. It's a good distance away though, so these stanchions don't feel particularly large or obstructive in terms of your visibility from here at the helm. Also got a lovely big compass, and we have the joystick on your right hand side directly next to your throttles alongside the bow thruster too. The tabs are on the left hand side, so you need to use your left hand, your steering hand, to operate those. But a lot of people will use those on automatic anyway, so it's unlikely to cause much in the way of concern. The hardtop itself is also a very nice piece of work. Really big unit. As you can see, if I face the camera this way, it comes right down towards the aft end of this dinette. It also goes right out to the bulwarks in the kind of Jeannot DB style, so you get the entire beam to use for your cockpit. Up above, we've got spotlights to help illuminate that dinette at night. We also got speakers built in there. Further forward, we've got a beautiful one-piece screen, curved. It looks fantastic, gives you plenty of visibility. And we also got these side screens. They're quite substantial. As you can see, they really cocoon the helm station, give you lots of extra protection. And actually, they should give you a decent bit of extra protection back here in the centre of that dinette. And then finally, up above, we have the slats. Now, sunroofs and skylights are all very well, but the slats are just that bit more versatile, enable you to tweak the shade, tweak the shelter, tweak the sun in whatever way you fancy. So that's a really nice touch. Now, given these steps up to that bow and given the nature of the hull shape, it's reasonable to expect some pretty good volume down below, and it absolutely bears that out. We come down into a galley space. It immediately feels tremendously bright and modern. It's very open plan. We've got a galley on the port side with a compact electric hob, plus a good size of sink, a low-level window with ventilation and high-level storage. Plus, down below, some additional storage, and I really like the kind of bronze metallic paint they have as a finish here. Bounces the light around, keeps everything lovely and warm. And I also like this. This is birch, and this is not a birch veneer on ply. This is solid birch, and really big, substantial pieces of it too. Beautifully finished with a kind of pale lacquer, so it feels very organic. It's beautiful to touch, particularly on the leading edge of the starboard day heads, where there's this beautiful curve. It's such a tactile part of the boat. It really is lovely. Quite a thing. Now, opposite
that galley on the starboard side, we have this unit here, and you don't really notice it from the lounge because you've got that mirror there. But what this is quite an unusual solution to the refrigeration needs on board your boat. We have house-style freestanding fridge freezer there and a microwave up the top. Very simple, and it kind of works. And let's move forward into that lounge space itself. As you can see, it's quite an interesting shape, kind of a kidney-shaped table. This will drop down into the space. You can convert this lounge into a double berth. But it looks quite complex. I wouldn't necessarily fancy being the bloke responsible for making that happen. We've got good windows on both sides, plus that little hatch up onto the foredeck we spoke about, and a big window there in the forepeak. And the headroom here is excellent. You could easily sit up there in bed and have a read at night before you go to sleep. But let's head aft, take a little dog leg and have a look at what we see beneath that cockpit floor. And there it is. This is your permanent double, a transverse double bed running from the port side. The cabin itself is full beam. If I sit down on that step, you'll see that. Really big windows. It's fantastically bright, and there's good vertical room as well. You could easily sit up in bed again here, relax a little. And again, the finish, really nice. You see the light cascading in from these windows, and these little ripples on that aft bulkhead really pick out the detail. It looks fantastic. Now, at the foot of the bed, we've got a nice long bench. We also have some hanging storage in here, more with this lovely curved birch. But the most interesting part about this is the solution for the ensuite. Now, obviously, you get the impression with that convertible lounge in the bow and this nice big double under the cockpit that this is pretty much a couple's boat for cruising, with the occasional overnighter for friends or family. And that's pretty justified. But what's really interesting is this here. Now, access to the ensuite is here. We've got the door to the cabin itself open, but you can swing this door open. There's a secondary magnet, so they sit flush together. So that's a nice little touch. And as we head into the ensuite facilities, there's our toilet, all pretty standard, nice and bright again. A mirror, a view, some ventilation, and there, ahead of us, is our separate shower compartment. But as you can see, what we're looking at through there is the day heads. So if I perch myself on the toilet in the ensuite and look across, I've just got to hope that nobody pops in to use the facilities further forward. So that's a really interesting solution, but actually it's not that rare for this particular manufacturer. The 470 itself has quite an interesting shower solution, which is kind of open to the main cabin, so you can see and be seen. They call it the sexy shower. I'm not sure that's the official brochure line, but that's the kind of principle. And if you don't like this, and plenty won't, then you can have a kind of frosted glass partition instead. By the way, it's again very bright with that birch. I don't mean to go on about the birch, but it is quite lovely, and it's a very effective use of space. This then is a really extraordinary boat, full of interesting design features, some of which are delightful, some of which are merely surprising to quite some degree. But it's certainly a better looking boat than the existing flagship of the Regina line, the 470 we took a look at earlier. And actually it's more than just a feel-good Mediterranean day boating platform. Because isn't it lovely to see a boat builder brave enough to take real design tangents, to do things so differently? Well, they've done exactly that here. And although it's not perfect, the fact that it's different makes it charming. Arguably one of the most charming boats here at the Cannes Yachting Festival.